But let's get started. I guess some people are just going to roll in and we'll do our best. Are we recording it or? Cool. All right, let me go to present. So for reminders, for new friends, I'm Fred. I'll do like a little bit of the front end of this deck. How's that? So the new people get a little bit of who the hell am I? For new people, this is me. I'm here because I'm not like some fancy director like Ben Hansford, and for the directors in the room, I'm not your avatar, but I think I'm here to help you and grow with you. My background is I was a film and TV executive for 20 years, and I've sort of been pivoting out of traditional media and sort of really, I think, on a journey that you guys are really catching the top of the crest of the wave. I think it's an exciting time what you guys are walking into in terms of the state of the tools, the state of the technology. I've been sort of applying my sort of knowledge of the industry towards learning. I've been sort of on maybe a few years ahead of you in terms of learning older tools. Curious Refuge was a place I started learning and then teaching. I started teaching their AI for docs class. So my background is unscripted and documentaries. I have a community called Machine Cinema that within this, if anybody's also interested in life beyond the walls of USC, you're very welcome to join that WhatsApp group. We just did an event last night. We do a lot of in-person events, a lot of education, video hackathons, stuff like that. And I've been sort of translating a lot of this stuff into new directions for me. I did a talk at Holly Willis's class last week where I guess she wanted me to show people that there's other stuff besides shit posting with AI that we can do. But I've been consulting with my former clients at like History Channel. I'm doing some like academic type research with Starling Lab, which is they do like media integrity. What's up, Habib? And I actually was also teaching at Chapman, and I'm teaching with them right next to you guys. So I don't think they have a very good football team. So I think you guys are doing fine on most counts. But anyway, that's me. And I hope anybody that's new, I'm not hard to reach. And I hope the video that is shareable that I think we've put up on a Google Drive. And if not, we will make sure that
it will be once you have your account. Yeah.
I would encourage you to watch it because it really is sort of like the sort of the big speech of why this might be interesting to people. But if we're jumping ahead to where we are today, today we're actually going to start doing stuff. And again, I do think there's some like fundamental stuff that we talked about, and that I would really would encourage people to rewatch that for people that are new. But today we're going to focus on kind of step one of this kind of being a storyteller, writing and sort of prepping the pre-production phases that are now uniquely different in the way that we use generative AI in different tools. We're going to do a little bit of kind of, I want to get us into a groove of also kind of buttering up our brains here a little bit. For new people, I don't think you got to participate, but I'm going to be sharing a newsletter. People that were here last week, I think you received. I'm always more interested in what you guys think is interesting. So I don't know, did any of those headlines stick out to people that were going through that, or even news that that is kind of a fire hose, this stuff? So maybe other news hit you. I just read something literally on the way here that there's an OnlyFans competitor that's fully generated by AI, and it's doing really well. And I think these things are always signals that sort of start to affect the way we think about media and consumption. We can talk about that. That's a crass topic. I'm also welcome to understand that nobody likes to talk about porn in class. What are some things that resonated with you guys as you guys are starting to seep in with this stuff? Or what are some questions that are emerging? Any news items that stuck with you? Anish? I'm just going to pick on people. I don't like waiting for people if it takes too long. What did something stick out to you?
Yeah, I watched the video that you assigned last week of kind of just like the progression, and I think it was interesting to see that, like initially when generative like videos started to come up, like we didn't also have audio, so you had to do it separately. But I think now with like having tokens both doing video and audio at the same time, I think it's interesting how it can like figure out the environment and then apply it to the video as well.
So I'm just pulling something up as you're talking, but so there's a video for new people that it's part of last week's homework that I do think is really worth watching. Because it really is. I mean, I think one thing that's funny about this space is that, and I think hopefully Habib and our friends from the department can relate, is it's a really tough thing to build a syllabus around, because then 2 weeks later something new comes out and you're like, wait, we really should be focusing on this. So I think I shared this as a video that, again, we're not going to watch it because it's long, but I'm just like referring to it because Anish brought it up. Bilawal Sidhu, if I'm pronouncing his name right, he does a lot of content for TED AI. He runs their podcast. He has a pretty good voice. And again, that's part of a list of people I encourage us to follow and just find ways to keep up with. But he just did a really great, like here we are, like top of year. And like there really is a very clear like what happened last year feeling to a lot of people in the space. And I just think for anybody that's just starting to dip in, this is a really great summary of just how far things came last year. At the beginning of last year, like 2024 to 2025, like VO2 had just dropped. which, and as you look through the deck from last week, you'll see that that was like this first breakthrough of people really starting to take this stuff seriously, because you're like, oh, that actually looks like stuff a director would want to use and any consumer would watch and not think is slop. And then over the course of last year, so much happened, and it does a really good job. I think it was made sense to people that are non-technical that watched that video. Did that make sense? Like words like autoregressive, like does that register? Does anybody know what autoregressive means? I actually didn't know the first time I watched this video. I knew the concept, I just didn't know that word. Autoregressive kind of takes us back to how ChatGPT kind of originally worked, which is a text conversational. It's the idea that it's predicting things. So its ability to function is that it's predicting the next word, the next token. And what a lot of these tools are now starting to do, the big breakthrough, like on an image model, for example, like Midjourney, which some of you are going to be familiar with, is a diffusion model. That on its most basic level, the way it works is it comes up with a lot of fog, and then its data turns that fog into something hyper sharp and beautiful. But along the way to picking something beautiful, it's kind of non-specific. It's very hard to be precise. So tools like Nano Banana Pro, which is like the big breakthrough from this last year, it is adding this auto-regressive layer to image generation, that it along the way to creating an image, it's actually using the reasoning model that it's connected to. It's connected to Gemini, which is another big brain model. It's not an image model, it's like ChatGPT, and it's applying reasoning to coming up with an image. So it's predicting the image, and then it adds a diffusion layer on top of that to make it pretty. So a lot of this stuff is broken down in the video, but I think it's interesting the way he breaks it down to just show you what is really happening and why it's being taken seriously, and the fact that that's now living in a video space is even bigger. And you'll see that as we get into video generation, like the Kling tool that we're going to have access through FreePick, Kling literally has a feature that you can just guess the next scene. Like, so the idea is you're actually watching a video and it has a brain to observe the dialogue, the action in that scene, and it's saying what happens next. And that might be an unusual choice for a director who has a screenplay in their hands. But the idea that you can work with the model, even as an ideation partner, to sort of think about what happens next in this scene. That's this auto-regressive term inside of the AI land. Anyway, I just think it's interesting, and I think that is one of the big breakthroughs. What did you think of like what he was predicting about the future? For anybody that watched that video, he started really dropping some big ideas of where this is headed. And I do think that's why it's exciting to be in a class like this year, is because that might happen in a month. Like the things he's predicting could be moving faster than we think. What are some of the things he said that might have stuck with you?
I think like also when it came to like world environments, like building like 3D worlds, like I think there's so many like newer technologies. I know world ads, like now you can just like take photos of like a location and then just like build it in a 3D world. So for like if you're using like Unreal Engine or like animation style, like you can create like this room in that space and then just have it as like a virtual background. So I think like those types of technologies where we can like have like more like hands-on experience of just like doing it much easier rather than having like a CG artist building it. I think it's really
yeah, and again, that's that auto-aggressive capability that it's starting to tap into. I mean, he started at, it's fun. At the end of his video, he's saying, man, I wonder if this is going to come out. And one of the links in last week's newsletter is like, Pixverse real-time R1 model is literally just like a prompting real-time generation. That's, you know, it's not quite there. None of us are going to look at that and say that's the thing. But again, remember that spaghetti conversation from last week? We talked about like Will Smith eating spaghetti as like this iconic video in the AI space, that it's something that's easy to dismiss. It's easy to ignore, but like as we develop our muscles in the space, we're going to learn a lot of things. The biggest thing you're going to learn is a mindset of how do you at minimally start interacting with this news cycle. And as much as like, I think when I talk about this space, I think a lot of people could reasonably say like, why don't I just wait till it's settled? Okay, like you know, like I'll just wait for all this technology to land, and then once those cameras are built, I'll start using them. There's a lot of people on my side of the generational piece where our industry is moving in the wrong direction. We don't get to look around at how great things are in the current mistake. And a lot of us are saying maybe it's time to sort of take bets or start exploring, or at least building, I think, this mindset muscle. So I think as we think about some of his predictions, he's talking about that world model capability, that what it's doing, and that's the big word. And again, we're also dealing with a financial news cycle. These same tools that we're interested in are also mostly not operating at a profit. They're mostly pumping us as their customers to tell a story about why they're the future, which is why they get more investment. So we're, whether we like it or not, part of that. And again, observe it and think about the words that are being chosen, the stories that are being told. And he flags a really interesting point that Runway, Sora, all of these models, they all have in the last year been using this word world model, because they want to tell their investors and the world that they're operating in a new future, that the model isn't just a predictive token-based model. It's actually has the understandings of physics, geometry. It understands the world the way, frankly, robots will understand. And that, again, we talked a little bit about that last week, but that's the virtue of these multimodal tools, is that multimodal tools are seeing and hearing. They're not just interacting with text. And one very real application for that constant data collection, which is, if you think about it, even every time we interact with one of these tools, even by liking a video even by choosing to download a video, we're telling it, I like that. So even as users, we are constantly reinforcing the journey that these companies are going on, which is constantly giving them better information on what kinds of products they're ultimately building. And we could hope that ultimately their end goal is just to make creative stuff with us. One real output is that this visual and audio information that we're interacting with is information for a robot to sit in a factory and know how to reach for that widget over there and put it over here. That's what Jensen Huang at NVIDIA will tell you, is what he's up to. That ultimately he's building a future of robots that are informed by all this compute power. So anyway, I'm probably fire hosing you again, but I want you guys to catch up to this, because this is when you are becoming operators in this space. And you're starting to sort of recognize why this has value for you, what things to ignore, which things are like, cool, now I'm a bit of a spectator to the story of NVIDIA, but now I understand why that's relevant to me. Now I understand that when he introduces a new GPU that blows everybody's minds, that's why it's extra relevant to the things that we do as directors. I normally want to spend more time in news. I also ask people to watch some of those videos from the deck. Did anybody see a film that stuck out to them? Did anybody see a film that they hated? And they're like, this makes me angry and I want nothing to do with this stuff. You in the back, I'm sorry, what was your name again? Leon. Leon? Yeah. What and you, like, I think you were interested in that Arrow film that we watched. Did you watch any other films, and did anything resonate with you?
The portrait number 72. I believe that.
Oh yeah, that was in the competition for the Billion Summit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of the time I thought AI films are of its own genre, but that one is more like realistic, like having AI to serve our storytelling. But I wonder how they did the directing, how they work with an actor to get the kind of subtle and realistic emotions out of them.
So, so one thing that's think about the structure of this semester. As we get through today and the next 4 to 5 weeks, we're going to be looking at just fundamentals of just like, how does this stuff work? That kind of question, I mean, I'll do my best to answer it, but we're going to lean into that in the sort of, we're going to kind of duplicate these efforts when we get into advanced techniques. I mean, there's no actor. I mean, it's generative. Let's start there and be uncomfortable about that. I think one answer that we're going to learn about, actually, we're going to start scratching at it next week, because Kling Motion is a big drop. Again, that was like an end of December drop. I mean, like my entire cohort from Chapman last semester didn't ever get to see that, because Runway Act 2 and sort of One Animate were like these sort of okay versions of what Kling Motion now does very well, which is, and you'll see the way they meme about it on YouTube, is that we're able to introduce people that are really good actors as filmmakers now, because their ability to move their bodies and contort their faces and move their fingers and their hands are becoming information that you can then apply to a JPEG of a fox, interesting Indian man, whatever you want. And that's one answer to how this was. This was a Google technology, because the summit was a Google VO3 challenge. So I'm going to guess they didn't use Kling Motion. It wasn't out yet. So this is also now pointing to perhaps its incredible intuition that as a good prompt then gives a director maybe 75 outputs that the other 74 were silly and weird, but he, like, you know, Stanley Kubrick took like many takes on the set of all of his movies, and he kept the ones that he likes. So at some point, most AI filmmakers, like, for better or for worse, are burning through a lot of credits along their way to getting the take that they like. So some of that is just constantly refining your prompt. Some of that is also, and you'll see as we get into the way these tools work, there is a way to refine your prompt to really direct what does the eye do, what kind of expression they're doing. And sometimes you're working with the reasoning model, the LLM, to help communicate what you're saying into prompt speak. So that is a few different answers. That one is increasingly there's a way to direct actors to communicate that into the model as a performance data. And the other side is sometimes it really is the increasingly effective prompting techniques. And like Runway just added a new model this week that's in some ways their pitch, is that we're getting to a point that the performance is increasingly convincing, which, by the way, actors aren't real people either. They're pretending to be real. They're just very good at doing things with their faces. So that feels weird because we like actors and we like why they work. But I'm just saying that is the same thing. It's just we're learning to sort of, as a director, insert our vision. Maybe in previs, maybe you go back to your favorite actor, but you'll see that this worked out pretty well. But yeah, this was one of the finalists for like that big billion. So for new people, about a few weeks ago, there was this thing called the Billion Follower Summit, which happened in Dubai, and it was you could be interested in the sovereign wealth funds that invest in these things like golf and lots of things coming from that part of the world. But they invested in a major creator summit where they invited people like Mr. Beast and like some of the biggest names in the creator world, and they also wanted to sort of to have a sort of a conversation about what was going on with AI filmmaking. They partnered with Google, who put up, either they or in combination, put up $1 million, which is probably the biggest cash prize for an AI filmmaking competition. As its own sample size. I mean, there's so many of these little AI film fests that you guys are interested in this stuff. I'd say it is an interesting way to start putting your name out there. It's still relatively niche. Like you're in a space where maybe there's a few hundred people that are really competitive, but it is a space where you kind of get an interesting like sample of like what's out there, like what's good. You can tell these guys definitely skew to that hemisphere. There's a lot more representation from sort of Arab countries and African countries, and the winner was some guy from Tunisia that I don't know. Very few people had heard of him. I think we'd started seeing his name in these film fests, but it's its own narrative of how we are seeing that democratization narrative, that like new voices, new filmmakers are now participating in ways that, for better for worse, didn't need to get admitted to major film schools. And that's an interesting dynamic here that, again, that some people might say the floor is coming up of what is capable of a lot of people. And that starts to create an idea, well, what do you do at that floor level? Like, well, what does it mean now that this is the average baseline? What does a great filmmaker do with that opportunity? And I think we've actually seen a lot of proof that becomes what I would say the opportunity for elite film students is when we think about this stuff. But this film did resonate with a lot of people. It would look as a finalist in that competition. Any other films stick out to anybody that followed through on that homework? Or again, I'm super down if you hated the movies and there's something that really offended you. Habib, did you watch any of these or any of these? Yeah, I mean, I like the one in class. The Station Zero was very AI-like, but a lot of the other ones you just kind of went into the story, and that's where it gets interesting. Where now you're not just thinking of, well, how was this made, right? I mean, Station Zero is also a trailer. I mean, it didn't have a big ambition. Yeah, I think Arrow and that creator is really interesting. I think it has like Web3 vibes, that you're seeing these like AI creators that are also choosing anonymous avatars, and they're not necessarily a public figure, and that's sort of their public persona. But I again, you can sort of see the edges on the upscaling on this. But I think in terms of an idea and an execution, something that they just ran with and made a film of, like, this is their take on the simulation that we all are maybe living in. I thought he did a really good, or they did a good job. I don't know if it's a she or he. I like that film a lot too. That one's a lot. I do want to make sure everybody scans through these, because I do think these are just good, like, inspiration. I don't think we're going to use time today, but everybody really should watch Ancestra, especially while we're effectively in some kind of partnership with Google by being here. So for the new people, we're going to have Google Flow, which is a literally $250 a month, sort of value, which people in my space would be very excited to know that somebody subsidized their credits at that level. That is as high as it gets. So I hope you guys appreciate that. And we can talk also about the economics of being in this class. You guys don't have lab fees being here, but I would really encourage you to not just sit on that Google love that you're getting. A lot of the things we're going to be learning about are going to be outside of Google, and I'm really certain you're not going to come anywhere near $300 if we are smart in the way you spend. And especially when we think about the second half of the semester where you're going to be in a team, if people are really stressing $30 and things like that, you can figure those numbers out as a team. But Google is going to be a real partner to us. Ancestra is probably one of the more interesting films that they made in the last year. A filmmaker called Eliza Micknett, who has a really deep resume in like VR films and like really interesting emergent work. She was brought in to partner with Darren Aronofsky's new AI fueled studio called Primordial Soup, which is a really interesting name for a production company. That I often think we're in a bit of a sort of an early Big Bang phase with this stuff. But Darren Aronofsky's company is very publicly doing a lot of work in the space. I know a lot of people that just started working there. You can imagine the level of talent that is now attracted to his more trustworthy brand rather than some anonymous person on YouTube that made a film about the singularity. But Eliza was one of the first films that they made with Google. It was at the Tribeca Film Festival last year as a sort of a special screening. And it was interesting to watch the critics talk about it. I think you'll also notice that there's either people that speak for you when they hate on AI and you see how they comment on the stuff, and I encourage you to preserve your own opinions. There's also people that do really good on engagement harvesting. And if you're not familiar with that term, that's what people do on the internet. They just want people to click on their stuff. And it's very easy to hate stuff on the internet. And there's absolutely a farm industry of people that like to just hate on AI because it's easy to get people to follow you and subscribe to your channel. There's some people that I thought said some unfair things that just sort of judged it. It's literally a movie about the day that she almost died as a fetus. Like she made a story about why she was inside her mom's womb and almost didn't survive because she had a hole in her heart. I'm not sure how you attack that film in general, but anyway, it's interesting to see the critics. But it's also an interesting exercise in hybrid. You'll see that it's very much filmed with cameras, and she very much, and I've seen her do Q&As on this, she very much talked about the, like, I wanted to do something impossible. Like how does this technology let me do something that's new and different that frankly would either have been exceedingly expensive with traditional tools or very hard. And I think she did a really good job with it. Habib, yeah.
So in IMDb, she has a cast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, were they scanned or?
No, they shot. There's cameras.
Huh?
There's cameras. They shot it in the real world.
So what part was AI?
So if we want to watch it, you'll see it. It's when she brings to life what is it like to almost die in the universe and to be connected with all of life. And I mean, here we'll watch a little bit of it. We'll skip the commercials. And she did, and I think we can probably dig up. We might even be able to get her to come in. She does a lot of public speaking. I think she's trying to move on to make other movies at this point. But we've done some events with her at Machine Cinema. But she really loves breaking down. Actually, I think Google might come and do a guest speaking as part of our relationship, and they have a really great presentation on the BTS of this. But you know, for example, all of this is actors. These are humans in the best form. The kind that have agents and lawyers. But you'll see that as we get into the narrative of how she almost died during labor with her mom, you know, she brings that to life. And she's a very expressive filmmaker. I mean, you can see that this is all AI.
Please be okay. Please.
So now it's like the inside of a human body and capturing that idea. Like a fetus. I'm sure. He's on it. He's on it. He's on it.
Listen. Your grandma's heart was the first sound I ever knew.
This is AI.
Hers. Before that, a rhythm passed down from every mother who tore herself open just to let life through. A pulse through every creature that came before you. Through every cell that split. Even before life, it beat, not in flesh, but in fire. Through every dying star, back to the very first pulse.
So it's about 5 minutes longer, but a few things to note. Obviously, all of that really expressive, weird, like black holes and fractals and all that. Like that's those are obviously visual effects that she would use the tools for. And if we get the BTS and they come in, like they did some really cool stuff where like her VFX supervisor, they would literally like wrap like a chair with like telephone cord and like weird like objects and like run a camera like through it and then use that as the reference video. They were obviously working at a higher level with Google, like they were interacting with the model at a deep level. This might be stuff that we can approximate. I'm just saying the things she got to do with early versions, she literally had the Google DeepMind people in partnership. But it's a very interesting application to the VFX process. That is an actress, but she will tell you, and if I zoom ahead to the scene where the baby's out, here's the baby. One of the BTS pictures will show you that the actual on set moment is that she's holding her hands up and there's air there. There's no baby there, which I think is one of the easiest ways to start wrapping your heads around as a producer. Like, why are we bringing newborn babies on movie sets? Like, that's a weird thing that society just thinks is wonderful here in Hollywood. This is a solution. Like, a newborn baby doesn't need to be taken away from their mother, and we can still tell a story with them. The face inside of the womb that we got to see, she very literally got to work with photographs of herself and try to really connect with like, what should that look like? So she was getting to really explore how to tell that story, which how do you put a camera inside of a womb? All of that wildlife. I would also argue, why are we okay with putting lions on set? Like, why does anybody, sorry for the animal wranglers who worry about their jobs, but some people think it's fucked up that we like use animals as props. So I'm just saying these are ways to start thinking about, here's a very real normal production that's arguably using VFX and things that we've all gotten used to. And these are very accessible solutions that somebody didn't need a gigantic budget on some level, and are actually things that are increasingly very available to anybody right now. But to answer your question, you can see where the actors are, and you can see where it became a hybrid production model. But I do think this is operating at a level that I think Eliza is a member of this group that just made a lot of noise. I think they're going to be very noisy this weekend at Sundance, called the CCAI. It's like the Creators Coalition for Artificial Intelligence, which I think is weighted heavily with a lot of people that have very conservative views and have historically been, I'd even argue, some very anti or very nervous about, which are interesting to listen to. I'm not even here to hate on them. I'm just saying she's an interesting filmmaker that I think she's always been at the forefront of very emergent media opportunities, but she's also cares about sort of, let's really interrogate and ask the right questions, which we're also going to do in this class. So again, I encourage you guys to watch these movies. I think they're their own useful way for us to find what we want out of this. And mainly I want you guys to watch this and say stuff like, how did they do that? I want to do that. Can we learn that here? That's a great connected set of dots for you guys. Or that didn't look right, how do we do it right? Or I want us to really use these as tools. So please watch these in your free time. Watch other movies. Show me movies that you just saw that just dropped on your social feed and you're like, what is this thing? How did they do it? I'll just skip through these again because I do think they're useful, especially to new people. This is the Billion Summit. We watched a little bit of this last weekend, and I don't want to lose too much time, but this is like somebody literally pretty accurately recreated most of Star Wars, for better, for worse. And again, that's showing you at least capabilities as we think about what's in our fingertips here. They also were anonymous. So, what does that mean? This is the film here that won the competition. That Portrait 52 was against. So again, this is the Tunisian filmmaker, Lily. Right here on the bottom left, I'm just giving you guys a cheat sheet as you think about which ones you want to watch. Habib's not a fan of Station Zero, but a lot of here on the bottom right, he's literally a student from my last cohort. He's ungraduated. He has a lot of phone calls right now for commercial work because he submitted that film into a competition, which is what I'm encouraging you guys, if you're interested in. These are real ways to start thinking about. In the current moment, it is not as noisy as it probably will be, and there's a real opportunity for people that are good at this stuff to stick out. He's very good. He's actually has like a deeper resume and Unreal Engine and virtual production, so he's very much building a real knowledge base that I think is a bit of a moat for him. Let's see, which of these would I recommend watching? This one we watched a little bit last week. I think it's a cinema that never was. I just think it's interesting because I'll just show it to new people one more time. This is a film that and it's actually about a year old, and it's still like running the festival circuit. I just want to show a snippet of it so you understand what it is. This is a film that the guy's very openly having a dialogue of like, what does it mean for cinema Like, what are we doing here? I think that he's literally really capturing into the language of aesthetics of a lot of movies that we maybe have seen. None of these movies exist, and he's generating all of them. So I'm just showing this to you as you guys think about whether this makes you uncomfortable or excites you. Your ability to interact with aesthetics and cinematic visual language is a tool at your fingertips now. I mean, I think everybody kind of remixes culture left and right at this point. I don't think this is that radical, but how easy it is, I think is interesting. And again, this is a choice for you. Well, where does this fit into your cinematic language? So I would encourage you to watch this. He's a very advanced filmmaker, Mark Wachholz, if I'm saying his name right. I'm just kind of touring through the ones that if I was only watching 4 movies, here's the ones I would watch. We'll start there. Actually, this is my other stuff that I do document. All right. Questions so far? Did anybody see another movie that we should talk about? Any other thing in the news that's upsetting or exciting that we should open up today? And I want to do that at the top of every week. We won't build a fluency. This, for example, I want us to think about this. Let's see. I hope my LinkedIn is logged in. If not, you guys get to keep watching me log into things. This is in like a newsletter that I drop. So when I create a newsletter for people, I show them headlines, I show them opinion pieces, and I also show them like new tools or new workflows. So this is a woman who runs an agency in the Netherlands. I've interviewed her. I think this is interesting. This probably reads like another language to you guys. By the end of this course, if not sooner, this should be like blueprint. Wow, that's great data. That's going to help me. What is she talking about? She's talking, and this is what's so great about the space, and maybe makes my job bizarrely easy or confusing, is that everybody's sharing. We're constantly exploring, like Kling Motion Disrupt. Where does that sit? That OnlyFans thing that I just told you about, like they're already predicting, like, oh, that must mean that they put Nana Banana Pro together with Kling Motion, and now there's literally an entire industry of like cheap, porn apparently that's making tons of money. So I'm saying, again, I'm really sorry if anybody's offended by porn. I'm just saying, think about the money, think about the business. This affects our world too. Porn's often a signal for where the consumers are. I'm saying we need to start developing that muscle of how does this affect the choices you guys make as business people, as creators ultimately. But here she's talking about the process she went through to make this video. Okay, so whatever, it's an interesting video, it's fine. Everything kind of looks good at some point. But what's more interesting is, what did she learn? Okay, so working with VO3's ingredients, what does that mean? Well, we're going to learn about VO3's ingredients. That's one of the features inside of Flow, where instead of keyframes, we're literally dropping a picture of a niche, we're dropping a picture of a beach in Tulum, we're dropping a picture of a rubber ducky, and the model and its world instincts and its ideas for reasons just somehow starts taking our prompt and creates a scene out of that. The way that you as a director might say, okay, actor, you do this, and rubber ducky, you do that, but we're in Tulum. Let's think about why this place is beautiful. It's starting to do that, and that's the ingredients feature. And we're going to think about the edges of that. Is that actually directing your vision? Is it just kind of making shit up and it's frustrating? Is that an opportunity to sort of blow through a lot of, some people even say this is more, there's greater fidelity doing it this way versus doing image to video, which is when we keyframe stuff. So again, I can't tell how many, but this is you guys are going to be fluent in this. I want you to look at emails like this, be confused now, and start to, because this is the good stuff. This is when you're really seeing how are people running agencies who need to do this on budgets, on schedules. How are they processing the exact same tools that you guys are going to be learning this week, this semester. She's even saying when working with keyframes, it works best to export still. So anyway, I'm not going to spend forever, but I want you guys to read this, be confused by it, be totally clear on it, and excite me to know that we're already operating at that level. But I want you to look at these things and start to ask questions, because that's where you guys are going to start building your own muscle memory on this stuff. But that's why I dropped this in this week's newsletter. Questions so far? How are we doing? I want to do some housekeeping stuff, because especially for new people, I want to get everybody on. Like I said, we're going to be doing Google Flow. Sorry, are there questions? I'm like caffeinated. I'm moving too fast. So far, what are we thinking? How are we feeling? Let's start there again. New people, how are we feeling? You're wondering what you're doing here?
No,
like,
no,
okay.
It's good.
Okay.
And it's nice to see, because I know, yeah, like Kling Motion's new, Runway, what is it, 4.5?
4.5 just came out.
I think those are, yeah, definitely the things like that I'm personally interested in. To just be like what are the tools that are coming out every single day?
And again, I'm going to try to filter that. It's going to be in my newsletter. And for the really engaged participant here, this is all candy. Like, I mean, it's constant, and it's either overwhelming or like we're trying to find a Zen state that it's okay. I don't need to know all of that. But that's the state of things. And again, as you find your opportunity. And I think do you guys know the term arbitrage? You guys ever think, like, watch those banker movies? The arbitrage is the fact that there's an advantage that benefits you. We're in a moment of great arbitrage, and I'm not trying to like make this about money, but that's sort of what being in a place like the space is, that you're finding an edge, and the ability to sort of build that mindset and that muscle of understanding, like, where's this headed, that gives you an edge on how. And I think we'll see the second half of this. I want to start introducing vibe coding to you guys. Like, I think if we get to the point that we're building software in this class, like, you guys are fully at light speed with the rest of the community right now, and that comes from understanding this stuff. And I'm not saying you guys are going to build Adobe Premiere. You're going to start building things that help you make the movies you want. And I'm starting, like, Claude Cowork just came out last week, and it's bananas. And I'll give you a look at it in a second. You have your hand up.
I noticed that one of the love interest films there was filmed with a previous model.
Right.
Is there one that is filmed with the newest model?
Like, did they update the film?
I didn't really see if there are other films on your slides that are made with clean, but the newer.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly just, I mean, again, it's all like at some point we're selecting. I kind of grabbed films that won festivals, like films that I just kind of want to give you a sense of. I think, like, as storytellers, look, I was at an event 2 days ago with Free Pick, which is the tool that we're about to open up and take a look at. And they actually put up their head of creative or whatever, put up a really good slide. And I think I really thought about you guys as he put it up. And it's kind of a basic slide, but it was like, here's their consumer profiles, like who uses Free Pick. And by the way, while I'm blabbering on, whoever hasn't joined our WhatsApp group, this is where I'll, at least on a week during the week before the newsletter comes out, this is where I drop stuff that I think is interesting. And I really want you guys to talk back and disagree and tell me, why are we looking at this stuff? Tell me what you want more of. That's what WhatsApp is ideally for. At the event I was at 2 days ago, he put up a slide because they're just talking about their business, like as a company trying to still be making money in the space, which is really crazy. And again, the financial news cycle is its own kind of spectator sport right now. Content creators, artists. Okay, so and we're kind of glossing over, like, everybody's a content creator, whatever, you creator economy. But it's a very interesting point, because as we think about where these tools are headed, let's get that mindset running. What is the easiest trend to predict is automation. The easiest trend to see is things that we used to think took a lot of time, or things that used to require a lot of craft, or things that only some people really knew how to execute. It's starting to get really easy to make that toothpaste commercial with one type of person brushing their teeth, change their skin color, another person's brushing their teeth, change their age, make it a woman, make it a man. Colgate toothpaste just inherited a marketing factory with a few fingertips, because that's content creation. It doesn't matter if it's artistic. It doesn't matter if it's not disposable. It doesn't, like, that's content. And it's a huge business. We're all interacting with it. It's literally the entirety of TikTok and most of the things that are doing great. So I'm saying that is clearly a direction, and it's what makes us think about slop. It's what makes us think about, like, this isn't me. Why are we talking about this in a film school? But there is the other path of where this affects artists, which are also benefiting or interacting with things that move things faster. That they're also benefiting with things that are suddenly taking things out of a long cycle of execution. But an artist wants to slow down, and I actually really want to hear from you guys on these things as you interact with these tools. I had a student last semester who walked in on week one, and he's very gung-ho. He's like, I love this shit, let's go. And then, like, halfway through, not only was he having trouble, but he even reached the point that he figured out, he's like, this isn't as satisfying to me as being on set with somebody. Or there's something missing from this. It's interesting. Like, let's figure out where those edges are. Like, where does that mean that we're preserving the parts that do make our film special? And that might have just been him. I don't know. Maybe you guys love this stuff. I don't care where your journey is. I'm just showing you that you should be on a journey. You should be seeing, where does this help me as an artist? Like, how is this forcing me to think in ways I don't want to think? And actually, that's where the toothpaste commercial is. Let them make a ton of money off that. Like, where do I get to make a film that shows up in this year's Oscars? So I think that is a mindset that we should interrogate. Like, which of these things that in the act of accelerating, automating, adding new ways of interfacing, how are they empowering you? And I want you guys to really speak up for that. And I think that's actually something that they're going to give you guys, like, feedback forms and stuff over the course of the semester. Speaking of which, and I think we put it out in the email last week. I put it out in my email to all of you. The Google Friends, they have new features that they're asking people to beta test. They're inviting all of you to be a part of that little group of people that are seeing things before. Please, who wants to be a part of that? Let's start with this. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? Is there anybody that doesn't want to get early access to the biggest technology company in the world and their free features. Who doesn't want that? Does anybody not want that? And it's okay if you don't want that, because it'll be easier. Okay, does that mean everybody here is into it? Okay, so can Brooks take everybody's emails and we're going to put it in an email and we're going to send it to Google and say all of these people are interested in participating in here. And I'm literally saying, if you're too busy and this isn't interesting, I don't care if you do this. I think it's cool, but it's up to you guys. You guys are busy people. So everybody's into it? Yeah, new people. You know who are the new people to keep up
We'll
with?
be getting.
Yeah. Okay, so that email, we're going to gather everybody's emails probably today and send that out. And that's, again, one of the opportunities being there. WhatsApp group, please join. And if you don't like WhatsApping, I don't care. It's fine. I'm just inviting you. It's all good. That's optional. What else? I'm also going to show you guys as we get into the tutorial part of today. We're going to learn about this. Do you guys use Notebook LM in school? Okay, one person, two people. Anybody else use Notebook LM? Great, we get to learn something. Notebook LM is literally a study guide tool. This has literally nothing to do with filmmaking, but we're going to learn about this deeper. But I'm going to invite you guys to one that I created that is, as much as possible, me grabbing every PDF that I'm going to be dropping in lessons to come from lessons. This is its own like reference library. So so here, just to give you a quick look, we'll go deeper later. These are all like these PDFs and like websites and things that I've been finding that I think are informed this class. This is a chat window. And just like ChatGPT, whatever, the difference is you're not interacting with the internet or like neural networks. It's just interacting with our data. And we're going to learn more about why that's a really interesting research tool for filmmaking. But I made this for you guys. If you use it, great. If you don't use it, I don't care. I'm just saying, I'm trying to make it that there's nothing that's ever not at your fingertips and you don't have to hope that Google and YouTube figure it out for you. I'm giving you what I would say in that moment at 3 in the morning when you're making your film and whatever's going on. That's another resource that I'm going to gather everybody's emails for. Or I might send out a link. I have to figure out how this works. Okay, those are housekeeping. We looked at that. What's up? Google testing. Okay, so especially for new people, I'm just going to say it one more time. No lab fee. Free Google. $750 worth of free Google. Ultra plan. We will understand that better. And I think that's going to launch with us on February 9th because it's only 3 months. So you will have the complete window of everything you would need from that for your final films. That will come with a bunch of free fast credits, a bunch of stuff. We're going to learn all about the Ultra plan. It comes with like Gemini. It comes with like, if you guys want to vibe code and create software and sell it to Silicon Valley, all of that is available for 3 months for free. But that's coming. Separately, there's a lot of things we're going to learn about that aren't on Google's Ultra plan. There are other tools. There are things like Kling. There are things like image editing tools. So and I'll just put this in context for new people. We were just zipping through tools. As you take a look at the deck on your free time, this is sort of just like a quick, like high level of all the tools. There's a bunch of tools, music tools, video tools. There's this little category over here of aggregators. Okay, what's an aggregator? So an aggregator is a tool like FreePick. And I'm going to try to do this quickly because some of you may have heard of Higgsfield. Is Higgsfield familiar to anybody in this room? So I'm encouraging you guys to start determining your own sort of journey here a little bit too. I'm also going to make recommendations. And I don't know if that's different from the way your other classes work, but I think I don't want to limit you guys if you guys have instincts. And then at some point when we're spending money, like make a choice. And when I'm talking about money, I'm talking about like $40. Nobody's buying a camera. There's no like $500 software license fee. This is all web apps. So this is FreePick. So let's start with why I think this is interesting. So what's an aggregator? Okay, the reason this is interesting is unlike Google Flow and Ultra, which we're going to have, all of these tools kind of have their own website. Kling has their own website. Midjourney has its own website. Minimax has its own website. They all have their own home base that some version of their business development team thinks that they make money over there. The other way they make money is this thing called APIs. Everybody know what an API is? Who doesn't know what an API is? It's okay. Sorry. I think it's applied programming interface. Pop quiz. Did I get that right, Habib?
Yeah.
Okay. APIs are how these companies kind of make their enterprise money. Okay. That's how they basically say, okay, if you're not going to come to our website, you can still use our gas. You can still use our resource, which is our video model or our image model. So one of the primary utilities for consumers is websites like FreePick. So when I go to use FreePick, when I go to use their video generator function, and we'll spend more time learning this. I'm just showing you why I'm recommending this to you. When you go to their model section, see that pull down menu? Okay. Right now it's on auto because some version of their tool is saying there's some consumer out there that doesn't want to think about any of this stuff. They're just like, I don't know, make me stuff. I'm just making a quick commercial for my used car lot or something. And they don't want to think about this stuff. You who should think about this stuff, because you should learn how this stuff works, you have the option to choose models, right? So when I go to all models, I get a vision of the universe here. Okay, so these are all the different models. There's many of them. It's overwhelming. Why do we have to look at this shit? There's too many choices. Okay, you should learn about it. It's interesting. The ones that are interesting that we have access to here that aren't on Google Flow, Google Motion, Kling Motion Control. Okay, for example, here's VO3. You can also use it here. Here's CDance 1.5 Pro, which is an incredible model. And I think one of the things we're going to learn is that a tool like Google has a different market position. They're a little bit more conservative. So if you want to make that horror movie where somebody gets cut up into little pieces, that's going to be a tougher movie to be making on Google. You might hack it and find ways to talk about like chocolate syrup instead of blood, or you might do old school film tricks like that. But it's going to be harder. Tools like CDance and Kling, they're for adult filmmakers that make movies that aren't just made for children. So for example, that's one reason I want you to have access to FreePick, is that you may have a whole bunch of free amazing stuff on Google Ultra, but you may have a certain shot that just isn't coming. And you're going to have at least the option to make that shot, or you might like using Kling over here. The thing that I want you to understand is that $40 a month, for example, on this plan, it's not just like unlimited. Sometimes it's unlimited. Sometimes they have deals with certain models that they say, okay, this model you get unlimited, but most of them have a usage. So part of this idea is that $40 isn't just forever. Like you may blow through it really fast. And I think it's because let me see if I can show you pricing plans. Yeah, here. So when you look, so this is, for example, what I want you guys to look at. As you guys interact with buying anything in this space, which you may say, I don't want to do, I'm just going to take that free Google Ultra plan. Again, I'm encouraging you to be more open-minded in that, but you're allowed to think that way. You see this button here? Annual versus monthly. If there's one thing you pay attention to with your wallets, pay attention to this. This is where they stick you. Okay. This is when you just go, oh, I like saving 36%. That's a smaller number than 39. That's because you just signed a year contract. Okay. Don't do that. Those $14 aren't worth it. Okay. Click monthly. Okay, so if you go down this road, just click that one button. You'll see it got a little bit more expensive. Maybe you're a big fan. Maybe you really want to make a year commitment. I don't know who goes on dating sites and makes a year commitment. This is a little date you're taking, some random robot. Just go out for a month, see how it goes. Cancel it right away. That's the other trick. Buy it, cancel it right away. Because then after the end of that month, if you still like this boyfriend or girlfriend of yours, you'll keep going out with them. And you'll re-up for another month. But that's just basic consumer behavior here. Grab it, cancel monthly. Okay. Please don't come back to me and say, why did I sign up for a year? Because you weren't listening to me right now. Like this is just easy ways to just not do annoying stuff, but it's worth it. Okay, so as we look at that, that's one detail that just please pay attention to it. As you look at the way they market themselves, okay, so look at how they're selling themselves to you. Again, this is financial news too. Why are these businesses behaving the way they do? Here they'll tell you that sweet $39 a month plan in comparison with the 3 other major aggregators, Pigsfield, Kriya, OpenArt. This is why they think you should go with them. And then there's some notion of fast images versus unlimited. What that means is sometimes you can choose, hurry up and give it to me now. They'll give you 1600 Nano Banana Pro images. If you're okay and you're patient, you can go drink your coffee and everything's okay. You're not running late for anything. You will get unlimited images under this plan. And they will tell you that that's in comparison to these other tools. But what I'm showing you is that these different models, and they're showing you the 3 kind of major models, or 2 of them, Google VO3 and Kling 2.6. In comparison, Kling 2.6 is a better value. That in that $40 a month, you're going to get 120 videos versus 45, which is why use your Google Flow Ultra, which is unlimited and free. Don't use your credits on FreePick, for example. So this is like annoying, confusing stuff, but it becomes useful as you guys just want to do 75 takes of that one expression that I really want to get my Indian guy in my photography movie to look, is because you didn't worry about credits. And that's where at some point, this is just being a producer. Like this is like, how many hours on set do I have? It's the same idea. So I just want you guys to see this as choices you're making. But you can sort of see how this is an economic choice. FreePick, why I would recommend you guys taking a look at it is because it's a really good generalist tool. As you can see, it has the basics of image and video generation. As we get into image stuff, it's the same idea as what I just showed you on video, that there are multiple models, okay? And I will encourage us to spend a lot of time at Banana Banana Pro. You will see that Dream 4.5, which is the image version of Dance, is going to help you do more racy, gory horror movie stuff, for example. So that's why it's good to have optionality. And that's why I'm encouraging you to also have the free pick accounts, because depending on the movie you want to make, you might find more freedom outside of Google Flow. But it's the same idea that you have access to multiple models, and then we'll learn how these things work. What is also interesting about free pick and the things that you'll start to notice, and that's why I also want to show you guys Higgs fields really quickly, is their moat. Okay, you'll hear this word a lot in the financial news. How do these businesses build a moat? Why do you enter their castle and never leave? It's a financial term. Their moat is their workflows. Okay, the reason you will fall in love with free pick is because you like things like, when I go to this little like lots of dots button, here's like all their tools section, right? There's this thing called change camera. This thing's really cool. They just added this literally like a week ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. You see this interface right here? So the idea is that as I upload an image, I can use this interface to move the angle around that image, move up and down, zoom in and out of it. That's basically an orchestration layer on top of Nano Banana Pro, because that world model technology that we were talking about at the top, that idea that it has the intelligence to understand geometry and space, it now created a really cool little interface for you to just not have to prompt that shit. Like, it's just like, just move my little dot around and give me the angle from over here. 3 weeks ago, you were going to drive yourself crazy. It's like, can you go 35 degrees over here, maybe like 10 feet back, and you're just somehow trying to communicate with it, and you would just burn through annoyingly. This incredible superpower is like, it's like you're talking to like a blind person to walk through, like a mall. This is a much more interesting interface, and that's an example of something that FreePick created for their customers. I think it's really cool. One of the things that we're going to learn about, that's another really interesting aspect of Nano Banana Pro, is this thing called, what they call variations, and we're going to dig into this in a few weeks. But one of the things that, again, think about that idea that it knows how to give you multiple angles. It also knows how to travel through time and maybe think about what happens next in a scene and maybe guess and use that reasoning. So one of the features that somebody hacked on Twitter, and then it became a feature on these tools, is you can tell Nano Banana Pro, give me 9 angles of this shot. Okay, like, sorry, what was your name again? You told me.
Charles.
Charles is sitting there. I can say, give me 9 angles of Charles sitting there. And I want an extreme wide shot, I want an extreme close up, I want a high angle, I want a worm's eye view, and I will just get a grid with 9 shots of all those things. So that's the thing that Nano Banana Pro, somebody figured that out on Twitter, and then it just like went viral, and we were learning this like 3rd week of December at Chapman, and all of a sudden everybody's movies got better because it's like a really cool feature. Okay, well, so FreePick created this amazing little interface for you that now I have multiple ways of doing that. I can do the storyboard version of that, which is the one that kind of walks through a sequence of the narrative that I gave it a prompt of, so it goes through time. It has the reframe, which is just literally like, what if I had 9 cameras on set instead of 1? It has this people one, which is a way of saying, I want to see multiple expressions from Charles. I want to see sad Charles. I want to see angry Charles. I want to see happy Charles. I can just get a bunch of expressions from Charles. Okay, and then me and my flow state that I'm creating in my little generation booth, I now have all those tools. That's something that FreePick's created. So I'm not trying to sell you FreePick. I'm just trying to just show you the workflows that they're creating using the exact same image models. So I think it's worth $40 a month. I'd try it out for, especially while we're waiting for Google to come in a few weeks. For anybody here that just wants to start playing, I really would encourage you to, and I'd love you to send stuff on the WhatsApp. I'd love you to send to me just shots that you made, whatever you want to do. I would just start jumping in, and I really think there's nothing to really wait for. But I would say that while we're waiting for the Google Flow tool, this is what we'll have, and we're going to start interacting with it today even. The other one that I think even Ben, who was teaching this class, will rightfully say is a popular tool. So this is Higgs field. I'll just say on a personal level, their marketing is really intense, and I'm just going to flag that. If you guys start following these people on socials, like they've done some really questionable stuff that, again, when we think about the world of engagement harvesting, like doing something really controversial is a really quick way to get a bunch of people to pay attention to you. It's not my vibe, which is a little bit of why I've been cautious to interact with them. They're just a tool, by the way, guys. They're not just some propaganda machine. I'm just saying I'm just going to describe this. It's upsetting. They did some really weird like video that they thought, or they re-promoted it, of like JD Vance like on a date with like Erica Kirk, and that it was all part of some plan of his or something. Like, it was really fucked up. It was like really stupid. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you should just be like a vanilla company selling tools. that's who they are. I just want to tell you why I don't spend much time with them. I also acknowledge why everybody really likes them. There's a lot of filmmakers that the only thing they care about is excellence and what it does for their filmmaking, and they don't care about marketing and they don't care about choices like that. And that's maybe a difference between me and them. I also don't use Grok and tools that Elon Musk makes for reasons that belong to me. But I'm just telling you, I do engage on things that affect me. This is the Higgsfield tool. This is their version of an aggregator. They have a couple really cool things that I think if I was in film school, I'd be paying a lot of attention. Is anybody here like a real cinematographer? That they just know cameras? Is anybody like a big like camera geek? Okay, so Anish. Here you will notice that one of the things they've created in their workflow, the optionality you have is this button. And Habib, you might get a kick out of this. I can choose Arri Signature Prime Lens. I can choose Arri Flex or Panavision Millennium DX. I don't even know what these cameras are. I can choose focal length. I can choose aperture. I can get really specific because the truth is in these image tools, you can be that specific. You don't even need this tool to do that. You could create your own prompt generator that does that. So you don't actually need Higgsfield, but they were smart enough to create an interface that somebody might really like living inside of the Higgsfield universe and having somebody speak their filmmaking language when they want to generate their shots. I think this is a very relevant tool to filmmakers, and this might be a reason why you choose Higgsfield. Go ahead.
You can do that within Google.
Yes.
You could do that with, like, let's say, FreePic.
Yeah, you could. Because FreePic is just an API. It's just that they don't have that handy dandy little feature.
Yeah.
Like it's not just a button. It's like, no, you need to be smart enough to prompt that in your text. So that's all it's doing. It's just, again, workflows. They're just creating ways for this stuff to be a better product. And maybe that's worth it. Maybe I don't want to deal with text prompts. I know I'm applauding them that I think this is good business on their part. So this is a moat of theirs. This idea of the cinema studio is that the other thing, just to understand the way these moats work, there's this notion of an orchestration layer. So think about those core models that everybody has access to Nano Banana Pro, everybody has access to Kling. They are creating, in the act of creating these interfaces, these things that kind of turn the screws and optimize. They almost like they almost add negative prompts, which a negative prompt is what you tell it not to do. So they create these things that just make it more slippery and good. And that might be something you start to find a pattern. Like you might do a test, or you take the exact same prompt for Nano Banana Pro in Higgsfield, take the exact same prompt for Nano Banana Pro in FreePic, and you might notice a difference. That speaks to that idea that there's this like other layer that you're not interacting with that is their proprietary kind of software. So worth noting, and I'm just empowering you guys to care as you spend maybe $40. The other thing that people are really hopped up on for Higgsfield, let me see where they put it. Is it video? Yeah, so it's this idea of presets. Okay, so and this was kind of where they first really change. Yeah, so this was kind of what made them really popular. So before they really just started flattening that everybody's going after the same aggregator business, what they did is they created this preset business. So and you can see how this is very social video, very content, less artistic. But sometimes as an artist, you might see the opportunity in this. This is that orchestration layer that I was talking about. So these are all different presets that some of them are camera control presets. Some of them are like what they'll call a UGC for like the pizza fail effect. Some of these are obviously just viral videos. But what's interesting is that you can like mash these up. Like you can sort of like take two of them. Like I can do like this giant grab one and add it to the smoke transition. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just showing you this is their moat. So if you like this type of like really out of this world, like music video effects and like really cool, like that's just a click away on top of your prompt where you would add your keyframe or your visual or whatever it is you would apply to any image or video generation, they've created this space that is very popular for them. Is that people love just like creating like really out of this world effects that don't require really, because again, you can prompt these things. It's just you're skipping that. It's just like a button click. Question, yeah. No, they're just showing it to you in that tile. So yeah, you can make your movies look really wild and crazy with just a few clicks, and that's kind of why people love Higgsfield, is it makes them look good. So you have all these people like just kind of like memeing their way through their kind of careers just by like, for people that don't know that it was just a click away, you're like, oh my God, you like made some crazy like flying person. How did you do that? And that's that arbitrage I was talking about before. Some people are just kind of like milking this, and I think it'll go away at some point. So anyway, I think these are two of the more relevant ones. I'm also historically a fan of Kriya, and we may come back to it as like a sort of a use case that that I might flag. Kriya is another aggregator. And I'm just showing you the three because I really want all of you to choose one of these three. Again, FreePig, I would just say is a bit more of like the everything works just fine. Kriya is not far behind. Let me log in and get us in. Okay, so Kriya similarly has all these tools. It's the exact same stuff. None of this is that different. I kind of like their interface, to be honest. I think it's cleaner. I think it's a little bit more like it's my vibe. I've just gotten used to FreePick because there's a lot of things that I like. But if you like Kriya, the one thing that I would point to that is currently, I'm not seeing it on the others, but this could change in like the end of the day, the way this space, this idea of 3D objects. So what does that mean? And I'm just going to zip through this and we're going to spend more time on it. Like right now, if I'm like a samurai warrior dressed up holding like a pink bottle, okay? I got my picture. Nano Banana Pro is really good at making me run, making me like jump in the sky. Like I can prompt me in that role with a pink bottle all day long. If I prompt turn me around 180 degrees, and I'm just telling the model to make an image of me in that pink bottle doing this, most of the time it's going to mess it up. And it's going to put the pink bottle in my other hand. Because it's still not quite there. It's doing amazing stuff, but that perfect world knowledge, that what does it look like when I do this, isn't quite there. And again, it'll probably be, Nano Banana Pro is probably gonna have an update next week and we're all gonna be like, nothing matters anymore. But that problem that you as a filmmaker just confronted, that you're like, wait, I gotta put my character over there and the bottle just switched hands, it's the scene's continuity. One of the solutions is this 3D objects idea. That if we start putting our virtual production hats on and start thinking about Unreal Engine, one of the things you can do is you can take that image of me and turn me into a 3D model. And then I can drop that 3D model into an interface where I can turn it around. And now it's in the correct hand when it's turned around. And then I can just reskin it with the Nano Banana prompt that says, just take all the textures over here and apply it to that new body that's switched around. That's a type of hacking that we're still doing. And I'm just saying that, for example, is something that currently I only see in an aggregator setting on Kriya, which might be a reason why you get it. Maybe you're someone that does a lot of 3D work in Unreal Engine. Kriya might be a little bit closer to you. I really think you're in good hands with any of these tools in terms of just having access. Again, the other value here is that as we go through these new cycles, as some new feature comes out from Runway or whoever, these aggregators almost always quickly drop it onto their sites. So that where anything is too moded in Google Flow land, which again, the opportunity there is that it's free and it's very high level and we're getting access to cool stuff there. This idea of getting access to the rest of the space that we're going to be talking about a lot, that's what these aggregators do for us. Okay, so I just wanted to introduce this to you because I'm really telling you guys should spend $40 this week or soon to start interacting with this stuff and not just watching it on TV. And I think I literally, like one of my students from last semester who was one of the graduate students, I had actually undergrads, when we gave him one of these tools, he was the one that just stayed up all weekend and just started messing around with no direction. I gave him zero, we hadn't taught anything yet. That was the film he submitted into that same competition that I mentioned before, and he came in 3rd place just because you started fucking around. So again, we're in that space that right now, especially as talented filmmakers, you guys really are going to quickly start, making some cool stuff. And I really encourage you guys to use your free time however you want. You guys have busy lives and you have other classes. I get it. I'm going to pause there because that's really the housekeeping part of today. And I think as we get into the class, we'll do less housekeeping and more doing. But any questions so far? Any things that we're going through and we want to come back to, especially new people? How are we feeling? How are we feeling, Hidea? Hidea? Hidea. Hidea.
Yeah. Actually, do have a question. I'm just curious, like within this space right now of creating like AI films, are they still embracing kind of like the hiccups and the things that you can kind of spot are AI generated versus like the ones that are super cinematic?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question.
Like Arrow, you could tell Arrow has like a lot of AI in it, and I get
it could also just be the resolution on YouTube, but I hear what you're saying.
But that's part of the point too.
Yeah.
Like it's talking about AI versus like the other one you showed us, Spectra. It looks a little like it looks very clean, like you can't really spot it. I'm just saying, are they like in the space of creating AI films? Are they still embracing both? Like, or are they looking for things that are super?
I think it's a question for culture that you're asking. and also people's businesses and kind of filmmakers they want to be. I think in general, we are seeing, like, especially the commercial agency world and the people that they really just wanted cheaper commercials, which means they want them to look like $1 million commercials. So I definitely think in general, there's a wave of people working at a level that it's about debugging, it's about cleanup steps. There's a lot of post-production sort of fine tuning that's going on that are just normal post-production, and none of that is necessarily AI. So I think that's going to be a client answer. I do also think it's really interesting to watch the conversation about slop. And it's inherently a negative term. And maybe that speaks to where you sit in your position of what is visual media and art. I personally used to like really love graffiti, and I used to like take a lot of pictures of graffiti, and like I think graffiti is a really interesting phenomenon. Like, to somebody it's vandalism, to somebody else it's protest art. I do think there's something else going on that's worth, on a cultural level, paying attention. And sometimes those flaws and those messy things are somebody's idea of what makes it feel like something else there. I saw there is a phenomenon of like luxury brands like Balenciaga, and like they're making slop ads because there's something kind of like punk rock about it or something. I don't know why they made the choice they did, but we're seeing slop, which is another way of describing the messiness and the edges and the stuff that clearly calls itself out as not a human or a camera doing anything. That I think invites us to sort of hate it or be interested in it, see it as an artifact. I don't know. It's interesting. I think for what it's worth, we're going to talk about Sora 2 later. If we talk a little bit, Sora 2 is this really interesting phenomenon that it's also a social media app. I don't know if it's doing very well, but it is doing something novel, because you can go on the app, give consent to use your face and likeness that you record and you submit. Nobody's grabbing you off the internet, and you can cast yourself in a little prompted video. And we can watch how that works if anybody's interested. I bring this up because in my machine cinema community, like when we saw Sora 2 drop, a lot of us thought this was like an opportunity to like experiment. So we created a sub WhatsApp group where there's, I don't know, probably about 50 people in there, where we're kind of improv trooping our way through like let's create a world, let's all create characters, let's all start like creating videos with each other and creating storylines. So it's become this really interesting, and we call it Slopopolis. So I'm saying that as an example of, we're experimenting with, like, I wonder if this crap look is a virtue, and I wonder if there's something there. And we're playing. I'm not recommending anybody to like slop. I'm just telling you, I think slop's a very interesting, like I think there will be museum exhibits devoted to slop, because it's a thing that angers you, and art should anger you sometimes. Like I'm saying, it's entering that space that something new and interesting is happening that doesn't look like a well-paid, client facing, commercial project, but it's doing something else. And in a weird way, sometimes people like the messiness because it speaks to something else. I don't know. I think this is more of a cultural question, to be honest. I mean, did I address what you were pointing out, or
No, yeah, that was helpful. I'm strictly just asking to understand the vibe within this space.
But that's what I'm saying. The vibe within the space is, some people like, almost there's a badge of honor energy. Yeah. They're like, yeah, I love slop. Like there's literally like businesses labeled like a slop club or something, because there's a sort of like the embracing the craziness of it, or there's some kind of punk rock energy. And then there's some people that think this is a way to describe what YouTube needs to pull back on. And then YouTube's literally creating policy because they're getting overrun with like probably the dumb kind of slop, which is just automated. I'm just like flooding the airwaves with, repetitive shit that nobody had fun making. It's just sort of like, I'm just trying to, get advertising nickels and dimes from YouTube, right? And that is like a type of slop that most of us go, okay, that's the type of graffiti I'd like to have cleaned off the subway, right? But then there's the type of graffiti that's kind of amazing, and you're like, wow, that's kind of speaks to me or something, right? I don't know. You had a question.
Yeah, I'm very new to the space, so forgive me if I sound.
No, we're all new to the space.
I was really interested in like 2D and 3D animation, and then I was going to start learning more about that, but now it's like so new and upcoming. Are any of these like apps and websites that you're talking about those specifically gearing towards that?
I mean, that's why I showed you Kriya, because like that's one of their tools. And again, we're mostly dealing with 2D movies in this class, I think. But I do think the question and the interest you have points to why I think there's a lot more going on in this space than making 2D movies. There's more interactive stuff. There's stuff that's living in perhaps 3D spaces, and minimally, having spent a little bit of time in like Unreal Engine and that kind of stuff, like we're getting to the point that some of those rougher edges of those tools that are harder and maybe like really require like expert technicians are starting to get a lot easier. Like the ability to just suddenly create a 3D asset has never been easier. Things like that. But I think that blur is the most interesting thing. I encourage you to live in that curiosity this semester, because you might find something more interesting than like a regular 2D movie. Sorry, you have a question?
Yeah, so like between Free, I guess Korea, Higgsfield, is it that they can all do the same things, but the form factor is sort of different?
Yes, the workflows. So that's what I'm saying. It's not a choice that affects your future. It's a choice that is just what your vibe is. I'm going to spend time in free pick in this class. So if you just want to keep up with me, it might be easier because I need to pick one road, but I'm flagging that camera thing in Higgsfield is cool. Like that's a cool feature if you're a real DP minded person that